As we go to air tonight, residents of Florida are bracing for a once-in-a-century storm as Category 5 Hurricane Milton barrels towards Tampa Bay. It's the second hurricane to hit Florida in a matter of weeks as millions of residents prepare for the worst.
It's a matter of life and death, and that's not hyperbole. It's a matter of life and death.
Get out as soon as you can. You do not want to be staying in these very dangerous environments.
I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Florida bracing for what's set to be its worst storm in a century.
Please, just call me. Find a shelter, a neighbor, somebody. You know, just get out of Tampa.
As Hurricane Milton forms into a Category 5 storm, more than 9 million residents could be in the firing line.
Say you're in a single-story home. Basically, that's the coffin that you're in.
Visible from space with winds extending 45 kilometres from its centre, Milton is set to bring winds of almost 300 kilometres an hour, more than 250 millimetres of rain and flash flooding, with cars bumper to bumper as residents in the path of the storm rush to evacuate.
We're very scared. We don't know what to expect, and we don't know when to come back home.
The storm seeing more than 1,500 flights cancelled, while those who did take to the sky quickly came to regret their decision.
I'm gonna grab my phone real quick.
Milton set to hit as Florida continues to clean up after the havoc wrought just 2 weeks ago by Hurricane Helene, which killed more than 230 people across 6 states.
We're looking at 160-mile-an-hour winds hitting Tampa Bay. Every one of these things becomes a missile that starts making more damage.
The devastation bringing residents and even weathermen to tears.
It has dropped 50 millibars in 10 hours. I apologize. This is just horrific.
Been to the point where I'm literally looking at every item in our home and deciding, do I take it or do I leave it?
So hopefully I come home, my house is still here, my car is still here, but it is what it is.
We are live from the lands of the Kulin Nation, and Chief Meteorologist at Weather Tiger, Ryan Trischelet, joins us now from Tallahassee, Florida. Ryan, we've heard some pretty scary statements from the President all the way down, warning that if people in Florida don't leave, they could die. So what's the feeling there right now?
Well, people here are quite exhausted. We're exhausted because we just dealt with a Category 4 hurricane landfall not less than 2 weeks ago that impacted many of the same areas that are going to be potentially hit even harder by Hurricane Milton tomorrow and on Thursday. We're trying to get ready as best we can. I think people are responding to the warning messages. They're responding to the evacuation orders because they have that recent point of reference of the destruction, the damage, the horrible experiences that people who went through surge and Hurricane Helene had. Now looking at the prospect of even worse surge occurring, people are responding to the messages, even if they're weary in doing so.
So obviously those messages warn of the worst. I imagine there are a range of possible consequences. Can you give us a sense of what the consequences of a storm this big could be for people on the ground?
Sure. Well, the biggest risk when you're dealing with a landfalling hurricane is storm surge. And that's that wall of water that the large and powerful wind field of the hurricane pushes out ahead of it. So, as we say in the hurricane science industry, you can hide from the wind, but you need to run from the water. You have to evacuate. If you're at an altitude that's within 10 or 15 feet of sea level, anywhere in the Tampa Bay region or Sarasota or Venice or Charlotte Harbor, you just have to evacuate to higher ground to save your life.
So Florida's now had 2 hurricanes in a fortnight. Is this normal?
It's not common at all. In fact, there's only 4 other hurricane seasons since 1851 where 2 Category 3, 4, or 5 hurricanes have made landfall in the state of Florida in the same year. We have a long history of storm landfalls. And people think of, I've been on the periphery of a Category 1 or a Category 2. I've been through a hurricane. I know what it's like. Well, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what a major hurricane, a Category 3, a 4, or a 5 are like in Tampa Bay, because it hasn't occurred since 1921 and 1848 before that.
Is the damage from this hurricane likely to be worse because Florida is still recovering from the last one?
Unfortunately, I do think that's true. We are not anywhere near done clearing the debris from Hurricane Helene. That's a huge process to clean up after a hurricane. It goes on many, many months. It's not something you would finish in 2 weeks. So unfortunately, there's a lot of loose debris lying around. And if we get a significant wind event in the Tampa Bay area, those winds certainly could be strong enough to be picking up those loose items and throwing them around, breaking windows, compounding the damage and making things worse, in addition to being very dangerous for anybody who'd be in the path of those loose objects.
Well, Ryan, the anticipation must be pretty awful. It's good to hear that people are heeding warnings. Let's hope they're effective in the meantime. Thank you for speaking to us.
Of course. Thank you.